Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in. Now, I have to say, I've been away for a while. I've been a little bit sick the past week or so. As you can still hear in my voice, been dealing with some burnout, mentally and physically. So I just took a little bit of time off. And if you see me post the shorts, a lot of those were either pre-created or pre-recorded before I even got sick. But now I'm starting to feel a lot better. And even though my voice isn't all the way back, today's video is something that I really wanted to talk about in particular, and that is every team's upcoming contract extension. Which one is going to be the biggest for each of the 32 teams? We're going to talk about that today. We're going to look at a Bleacher Report article, and we're going to discuss this, and we're going to see what I think, and I want you guys to comment what you think. Forget all the rest of the intro stuff. Let's just get into it. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Alright, so we're gonna get into the first team. Arizona Cardinals, Budda Baker. He did request a trade back in April. I still think a trade with him is probably gonna happen, as the Cardinals, in my opinion, they are an organization that kind of needs a big retool or just a flat out rebuild. With all of the players that they lost, with Kyler Murray's inconsistency and health now recovering from a torn ACL coming into question, I think this is a team that I think needs to be heading towards rebuild. And I think they need to head more towards trading Budda Baker and rebuilding this roster and see what you can get for him versus kind of retooling and restructuring his contract and giving him an extension. But that's just my opinion. But he is a bigger contract extension coming up. Next, for the Falcons is A.J. Terrell, who's been one of the better corners the past couple of seasons. And he was in that 2020 draft class. So he does have an extension coming up. It's interesting to see where the Falcons are going to go. They've been getting younger at a lot of different positions, whether it's been wide receiver, tight end, quarterback now with Desmond Ridder. We're going to see what that's going to be like. He can fit into those plans as far as the future of this Atlanta Falcons franchise, and he's been one of the better corners. So at this point, yeah, that is a big contract extension looming, but I think he's going to end up getting it and staying with the Falcons. He's only 24, so he still, I think, has some good football left ahead of him. Next team, Patrick Queen. This was going to be interesting, because if I remember right, they declined his fifth-year option. So and then on top of that, they traded for Roquan Smith in the middle of last season. So I don't know what they're going to do with him, even though he has a contract extension coming up. It's just, what are they going to do with him? You got Roquan. You pay Roquan big money, and now you have another linebacker who is a big part of your defense, in my opinion. And Patrick Queen, he's done some things. He hasn't had the great last year, but I think at this point, we got the Lamar deal done, so that would have been one of the things leading into it. So at this point, Patrick Queen, I'm just unsure of his future with him declining his fifth-year option. Next, we're going to go to the, this is definitely interesting, AJ Espinoza. He is a bigger part of their defense as far as what they're going to do, but they have a lot of veteran pieces. Von Miller, Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. Now, one of them that could have been possible was a guy like Tremaine Edmunds, but he left to go to the Bears, so this is going to be interesting. It's not really a lot of big contract guys. Maybe Gabe Davis, depending on what they're going to do with him, but they also picked up guys like Shaq Lawson and Leonard Floyd during the offseason, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bills are going to do. Carolina Panthers, edge Brian Burns. Obviously, he's been one of the more consistent pass rushers that has been in the league for a while. So at this point, the Carolina Panthers, obviously, they're going young in some positions. They did do a lot of free agency, bringing in Miles Sanders, bringing in Adam Thielen. You also have DJ Chark on the roster. They drafted Bryce Young. So they have some pieces. They got J.C. Horn as well on the defensive side of the ball. So Brian Burns, I think he's going to be a big key as to what they're going to do with 2 Pro Bowls over his first 4 seasons. So, yeah, I think he could be a big extension. I think he's going to have big top dollar money depending on what's going to happen throughout the 2023 season. but I think his extension is very key.
Today's video is brought to you by ExpressVPN. For me, it is very important to have a VPN to protect my online privacy. It'd be very, very creepy if there was someone out there who kept a log of every single thing that you did online. So why let your internet provider really do that to you online? The best thing to do is to get yourself a VPN, and why not go with ExpressVPN, the best VPN available. Personally, I like it for the fact that you can unlock Netflix shows that you do not get in the US market. Now, one show that I've started to get myself into is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You search Brooklyn Nine-Nine in the US, doesn't come up, but you can switch your location to Canada and you can research Brooklyn Nine-Nine again, and bam, it pops up right then and there, and you can catch up on your episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Now, if you click the link in the description below, you will get 3 free months of ExpressVPN. Just by clicking the link below and you sign up today, you will get 3 months free of ExpressVPN. All you have to do is click the link down below and you will get ExpressVPN. Now, let's just get back to the video.
Chicago Bears, Kmet. Now, me being personal, Justin Fields is going to fall in there. If we want to be honest, Justin Fields, he's coming down the line to get a contract extension. Kmet as well. It's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with him, because he will be a free agent after this season. And of course, you're going to have to either extend him or what are you going to do with Kmet? So that is big and looming. Justin Fields is looming as well. Of course, with them being the QB1, third year, you still got the fifth year option waiting after this year to pick it up. So really think that's a contract down the line, but Kmet is one before him. So it's interesting to see what the Bears are actually going to do with him. I don't know. Depends on what happens in 2023, in my opinion. Next is Joe Burrow. That's obvious. From the things he's been able to do, took that Bengals team to a Super Bowl. Back-to-back AFC Championship game appearances when healthy. So obviously, I want him to be paid. He's a former Ohio State Buckeye, boo-boo. And he's just been, I think he's the second best quarterback in the football, in my opinion. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is number 1, in my opinion. Joe Burrow's right behind him at number 2. He has been unbelievable with this football team. Now, offensive line, they did get Orlando Brown Jr. to help. That contract of Joe Burrow could be massive. Massive. Even if 2023 doesn't go as great, he's still one of the better quarterbacks in football. So he's definitely going to get that high-term dollar around Lamar or Jalen Hurts. He's definitely going to get around that. Next, Donovan Peoples-Jones. One of the more interesting prospects or interesting players that's been on this list so far. Yeah, they have a receiving core that, outside of Amari Cooper and Peoples-Jones, has some question marks. They brought in Elijah Moore. They brought in Goodwin. They brought in a guy like Cedric Tillman in the draft. But I don't know what they're going to do with Donovan Peoples-Jones. Are they going to extend him? Are they going to let him go? It's interesting to see. But they do have a guy like Deshaun Watson back for the entire full season. So it does have a wait and see on this, depending on what happens throughout the course of the season. But he's a very interesting player so far on this list. Next, Tony Pollard. That's another interesting one. Coming back off the broken leg that he suffered in the playoffs in 2022 season. And they let go of Ezekiel Elliott. They drafted Deuce Vaughn in a later round. So Tony Pollard has been a guy that's been productive for them ever since he's suited up for them. So it's interesting to see where he's going to go with these running backs as not being as value in this league as they used to be. Tony Pollard is an interesting one. After Donovan Peoples-Jones, second most interesting contract on this list. They paid Zeke Elliott high money, and that didn't necessarily lead them great because he dealt with knee problems and injuries, and he wasn't as productive. So it's a wait and see. But this is interesting what the Dallas Cowboys can do with Tony Pollard. Josey Jewell from the Denver Broncos. An argument, I'm reading this, an argument could be made for Jerry Jeudy, and that is exactly the thing I was kind of expecting, as Jerry Jeudy is extension eligible, and he was the 2020 draft pick in the first round, and I think he's going to be a big part as Denver can really bounce back. But Jewell, he's been solid when he's been in, but he missed 2021, and I just think at this point he's 28, so it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him as well, depending on what season they have. They did lose Draymond Jones, I believe, to the Seattle Seahawks, He's one of the better players up front for them. So I think at this point, yeah, I will probably put Jerry Jeudy here myself. But Josie Jewell is a very interesting prospect. Jared Goff, that is very interesting. Me personally, I think at this point, Hendon Hooker is probably going to be the quarterback within the next 2 years. Maybe next year or the year after that. But Jared Goff, it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him. He has 2 years left on his contract, $31 million and $31.7 million respectively, as I'm looking at this. So it is going to be interesting what they're going to do with Jared Goff. I still think Hendon Hooker, they didn't draft him just to sit him. And Hendon Hooker was one of those guys that could have been second round prospect, but I think he ended up getting taken in the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken. It's interesting to see. This Lions team is on the come up. Jared Goff had a very good 2022. So at this point, I believe it's just hard to see what they're going to do with him. But I think at some point, Hendon Hooker is going to be the quarterback for the Detroit Lions. It's just me. Next is Rashawn Gary. You can tell you could probably put Jordan Love at this position because, number one, he still is in that 2020 draft class. He's in a 5th year option. What are you going to do with Jordan Love? Rashawn Gary is also one of those guys as well. He's coming off of a torn ACL. He's been productive for the Packers when he's been in the lineup. So you can even toss this up between Love or a guy like Rashawn Gary. But it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him. I personally think it should be better for them to extend him, but who knows? It's just a matter. I think extending him is probably going to see as to where his knee is and how 2023 goes for this Green Bay Packers organization, transferring from Rodgers to Love. So it's interesting. Steven Nelson. Now, as we look at the Houston Texans team as itself, they don't have a lot on it. So I think at this point, he's solid, but he's not one of those players that jumps off the screen. He does play solid when he's in there, but he's not one of those guys that jump off the screen. Then on top of that, I accidentally skipped ahead. But he's one of those guys that is a very young roster. Let's just say it. It's a very young roster with not a ton of talent, but I think at this point, they're just still in that rebuilding and getting everything together phase, and he was just a young part of it. So maybe so. Well, not young, but he's 30. So I don't know. Maybe they extend him, maybe they don't. Still got Darius Stingley Jr. too. Who knows? Michael Pittman Jr. Now this is interesting. You do have Anthony Richardson as a quarterback. They picked up Gardner Minshew. It's interesting to see what Michael Pittman Jr. is going to do as far as what the quarterback situation is going to be in Indianapolis. And then on top of that, it's like, where is this team going to go? It's clearly in a rebuilding phase. Clearly there, especially on offense. You got Jonathan Taylor. You do have a solid offensive line, but the quarterback position is a big part, and we just don't know what we're going to get from it. Michael Pittman Jr. is a very interesting candidate as far as the bigger extension things goes. Even though he could be a big part to helping that quarterback, Anthony Richardson, develop. But it's just what are we going to see from him? Jacksonville Jaguars, Evan Ingram. Now, I don't think he should be a high-paid tight end. He's been inconsistent, in my opinion, at least for me, as far as what he should. I think he's capable of more, even though the Jaguars have accumulated some weapons in Kirk. Now they have Ridley. So he had a solid first year. I just thought he would have been maybe a little bit more involved, especially with his physical ability at the tight end position. What are they going to do with him? I think they'll probably end up going to extend him, but I don't think it's going to be like a long-term, like 4 or 5 year deal, maybe 3 year deal. But he's solid. I really believe he's solid. Chris Jones, this is one because Patrick Mahomes, we all know how much he's getting paid. Chris Jones is the Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's one of the more dominant presences in the middle of interior of the defense, and he's getting ready for a big payday. What are they going to do? Because I think partly of the Mahomes' contract has kind of hindered this roster a little bit, especially at the wide receiver position. But that defense lost some pieces. Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu over the last year or so. I still don't believe this defense is that great. They did enough to win the Super Bowl. I still am not a big believer in this defense, but you need to secure the biggest part to your defense, and that is clearly Chris Jones. the things he can do and the havoc he can create, he's gonna be in for a big payday. Big one. Will it be from Kansas City? It better be if they want to continue on this ride. Yeah. Josh Jacobs, the leader in rushing for in the league last year, he's going to be a big one. They already declined his 5th-year option, so this is year 4. So he's playing on a tag, and who knows? No, this is year 4 or 5. But yeah, he's going to be a big candidate for him. Big one. And who knows what, and we all know what the running back market really looks like. Are the Raiders going to be willing to pay that? Justin Herbert, yeah, that's an easy choice. Easy choice. Do I have to even say much about it? He's positioned himself as a easy top 10. If you really want to say top 5, you can possibly say a top 5 quarterback. He's due for a big payday, obvious. Van Jefferson, he's been one of the solid pieces. They still have Cooper Kupp, but who knows where this franchise is going to go within the next year or so. Matthew Stafford has been good when he's healthy, but he hasn't been healthy. That defense lost a lot. Offensively, they weren't great after the injury to Stafford, and Cooper Kupp himself, he's a big piece to what this offense can do. So we're interested to see what they're going to do at Van Jefferson. I think I might be a good candidate. Tua Tagovailoa, yes. Big question mark. Big one. Of course, the concussion issues. But when he was in the lineup last year, this offense was very, very explosive. It's just the concussion issues, and can he stay healthy for a full season? And his contract's coming. Yeah, I think this was the obvious choice for the Miami Dolphins. Tua, definitely. Next, I think a lot of these choices are starting to become obvious. Justin Jefferson is going to be in for a massive payday at the wide receiver position. Massive payday. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the highest paid receivers in football, if not the highest. The guy's just gotten better every year. Every single year he's just gotten better. Offensive player of the year in the past year. Easy. Oh, Duggar. He was a 2nd-round pick. He's been solid for him. It's just, I don't know where this Patriots team is going to be. Even though Bill Belichick is a coach, Kyle Duggar has been very productive for them, and he's coming up on the end of his deal. So I could possibly see where his contract could be up in discussion and talks as the biggest one for this Patriots team. Mac Jones, you could throw him in there, but we have to see what he's going to be like in 2023. So, yeah. Kyle Duggar, yeah, he's been productive, and they need to keep a core piece to that defense. Cameron Jordan. This was interesting because he's getting a little up there in age. He's turning 34 very soon. But he's been a key part of that defense. It's just, how productive can he be for how much longer? That defense, some of those pieces are starting to get older. DeMario Davis is getting a little older. So is Cam Jordan. So, yeah, I think he should get an extension. I just don't know what his market value is going to be, especially for a 34-year-old pass rusher. We'll just have to wait and see. But if they want to keep him as a core piece of their defense, I think you may have to I just don't know. But he's a very interesting one, especially coming up on the year 34. Saquon Barkley, this was obvious that they have to extend him at some point. He's been a big part to what you had in 2022. I think he was not even 50%, 75% of your offense. Because I still don't believe in Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones just got paid. Don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. I'm just going to be real. I don't believe so. So I think Saquon needs to get paid. We all know how the NFL values a running back, but this is one that needs to get paid. Chuck Clark, the guy they just traded with the Ravens to acquire. Yeah. Well, I don't know as far as what he's going to fit in this defense. He is a very good player. Do not get me wrong. It's just the fact of what kind of fit will he be in this defense. Now, we know Robert Saleh he's a defensive mind, and that defense was very good last year. Sauce Gardner, C.J. Mosley, Quentin Williams, P.J. Reed, and he's going to add another piece to a very good defense. I'm just interested in how the fit will be, because we've seen players get those big extensions, get those trades, and they just don't fit, i.e. 90 Absamoah with the Eagles. So we're just going to see how he's going to fit in that Jets defense. I believe he could be successful. It's just a wait and see. But yeah, I think he's going to get paid. I just don't believe in what market, it depends on how the season goes. Dak Driscoll on that offensive line, shit. You got to keep that together to protect a guy like Jalen Hurts. Now, Jason Kelsey is on a the end of the ladder of his side of his career, you got to keep some offensive line intact. You got to. Because they lost Isaac Seumalo and free agency, so they have to keep some type of line intact. You got a guy like Lane Johnson on your offensive line, so you have to get, I think you have to keep him intact. Alex Highsmith, that is an interesting one, especially with the TJ Watt thing going on. Alex Highsmith had a very productive season, even when TJ Watt was out and then when he was in. Yeah, he had 14.5 sacks last year. He's coming up on 25, 26 years old, so he's not really that old of a player. So I really believe that if they want to keep that core of their defense together with Fitzpatrick and Watt, I think Alex Highsmith is a big guy that they need to keep around. So yeah, his contract extension, I think he's going to get paid a good amount of money. Nick Bosa, coming off of a defensive player of the year, 2019 draft, 5th year, he's going to get big time money. San Francisco is not letting him go anywhere. Yeah, that's simple, easy. Big money, Nick Bosa, contract extension, get it done. Jordan Brooks, he's been one of the very solid players for the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, I can believe this could be a good signing. They were to re-sign him. They got Woolen. They drafted Devin Witherspoon. They got Jeremiah Jones to help on the defensive front. Jordan Brooks, I believe, will be a very solid player for them. And he's been a big key contributor. So I think he's going to get a nice amount of money. They did bring Bobby Wagner back, but I think Jordan Brooks has to stay on this roster if they want to continue success on the defense. Young player, been very productive. So I believe, they got to extend him and keep him around. Devin White, that's interesting because he asked for a trade. He asked for a trade. No, was that him? Yeah, he requested a trade. I don't think it's going to talk. I don't think it's going to happen. They have to keep him around. He has been a big part of their defense over the last 3 years. They have to keep him around. If they want to sustain any type of success, he has to be a part of that. He's been one of the better players at that linebacker position in the league. They have to keep Devin White around. They just have to, even though contract extension talks and all that, he has to be there. If they want to be successful, he needs to be on the roster. Christian Fulton. This Titans team, I mean, it's hard to pick a candidate because I personally think they need full-out rebuild. They need a full-out rebuild. He's solid. Do not get me wrong. He's been a very solid player for them. It's just where are they going to go? Christian Fulton has been very productive, but it's just where this roster is going to go. It needs a rebuild. You draft a guy like Malik Willis. You draft Will Levis. You move up to draft him. It's time for a rebuild. Safe to say, Derrick Henry, he's possibly the candidate for this list as well, but we don't know. I just think they need a rebuild. And last is Washington, Montez Sweat. You could probably put Chase Young in there, but Montez Sweat and Chase Young, definitely. They've been a big part. Well, Montez Sweat has. Chase Young, 2020, he had a very good year, rookie of the year. Got hurt in 2021. Didn't play much in 2022 because of the recovery. They had to resign Montez Sweat. He's been solid, very, very solid for them. They already denied the 5th year to Chase Young. So you can actually put Chase Young in here if they're willing to keep him, and depending on what year he has, and Montez Sweat as well. So, yeah, he's a big one. But, hey, those are my thoughts. You guys' thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Deuces.